Confidence isn't built from motivation. It's built from follow through, especially when nobody's watching. Let's talk about the quiet way confidence is built, and then let's train. So if you're on my email list, last week, every Friday I do an email. I told you something that might have been hard to hear. Every lie that you've ever told has come from you. That hits hard, doesn't it? But if you were the one who broke that trust, you can be the one to rebuild it. Most people think confidence comes from results. The successful people are confident. The goal weight, the promotion, or the after picture. But consistent confidence doesn't come from the achievement. It comes from having integrity. When you do what you said you would do, especially when nobody's watching, that's when self-respect starts to grow again. I can't hit on that hard enough. Let me say it again. When you do what you said you would do, especially when nobody's watching, that's when self-respect starts to grow again. That integrity builds. How you act when nobody is around is the ultimate self-test. I've literally walked past garbage on the ground and waged a small little battle in my mind to turn around and pick it up, because I know that it's just a tiny little piece of garbage. But if I don't pick it up, who will? If I don't pick it up, then I just lost a little bit of integrity with myself, because my values tell me that I'm not going to let garbage stay on the street or whatever in front of me and just ignore it, because if I do, then the next person will. And it's kind of like the old the Good Samaritan story in the Bible. So many people pass by thinking somebody else will help them. They're too busy, right? I don't want to be that person. So I literally try my best to set that precedent with whatever's on the street, right? And I'm not going out and picking up every piece of garbage, you know what I mean? But when you walk into something and you purposely step over it, come on, right? That's what I'm talking about. It's not uncommon to have a portion of carbs on your plate, eat too fast, and then go get more either, right? Another battle begins. If I don't dash to the kitchen right away, what happens? So I challenge myself to eat more mindfully. Eating, setting the fork down, taking the breath, drink a little water, engage in conversation with the people sitting with me, set a timer. Whatever the strategy is, we have all sorts of strategies in my coaching programs, right? The strategy isn't what's special, right? So whatever the strategy might be, don't add more carbs to the plate or more fat to the plate, right? Because I had a portion that I was going to eat, and that's it. So these are both simple examples: walking over trash, not eating more carbs or excessive fat at dinner, right? But they're simple examples and complex results. Because if you take a bird's eye view of all of the small battles that you win every single day, or have the opportunity to win, you might just step over that piece of trash and you didn't win that battle, did you? So they're all rewiring our brains to act differently next time. And what really matters is what you're doing now, in the moment, because it's going to build over, it's going to spill over into tomorrow, next time. Eventually, I mostly pick up the trash. And eventually, I consistently skip overeating during meals. Here's how I coach this in one of my coaching programs, okay? When we talk about this a lot. It's the small promises, not the big ones. So stop swearing you'll overhaul your life over tonight, right? New Year's is coming, right? That's it. It happens all the time, every New Year's, right? And then start with one promise you know that you can keep, like walking for 10 minutes, drinking a full glass of water first thing in the morning, or eating one balanced meal today. Each time that you follow through, you make a deposit in the confidence account. And that is not a small thing. Our minds might tell us, I walked for 10 minutes, good for me. No, you need to acknowledge that the small things become the big things. Number 2 is shrink the timeline. Forget this year. This year. It's going to happen this year. Can you keep your word for the next 24 hours? Do that, and you'll start to believe in yourself again, right? Because if you do that today, and then you wake up tomorrow and you're like, it's about today, this 24 hours, right? You're more present, you're more in the moment, but you're also saying to yourself, I'm committing to the now, and I'm going to do one little thing better today. And I know that I will be better off in a year from now, because if I keep doing this daily, then I don't need a big change to happen, because the big change slowly happens every single day. Number 3, stop negotiating. If you said you're going to do it again. Don't reopen the conversation in your head. I really struggle with this, man. I love thinking about things. It drives me nuts about myself. It's part of, my personality, you could say, whatever. It's how I was made. There's a lot of good things about it. But when it comes to stuff like this, it's so easy for me to overthink, okay? So this is a huge one. I cannot negotiate. If you said you're going to do it, then you do it. That is a value that I want to live by. So don't reopen the conversation in your head. Every time you renegotiate, you teach yourself that your word is flexible. And that's where trust goes and dies. If your word is flexible, this is one of the most overlooked things, right? And we can branch this out into bigger things, but let's get really concise here, because I'm telling you, man, if I knew this when I was like 19 or 20, I'd be a lot better off today. Your words matter. The language that you use matters, okay? And this is because it is energy you're putting out that has a meaning to it, okay? Like, ooh, it's getting a little woo-woo. No, it's not. Because the people that don't negotiate with themselves, they do what they said they were going to do, they know that their word means something. And I'm not just meaning like a word, like a promise, but it means when they say they're going to do something, they're going to do it. And they don't get wishy-washy with their words. They're like, yeah, maybe next week we can do that. They don't talk like that. That's not in their vocabulary. It's either on the calendar or it's not on the calendar, because it's getting done or it's not getting done. And if something, let's say in the evening, you just can't get to it because you don't have enough time, guess what? You move it to somewhere else because you still need to get it done. It's not flexible where you're saying, okay, well, maybe next week I'll just put that in a random bin of words and thoughts and then hopefully I get to it. No, that's not how it works. And that negotiating is what causes so many people problems, right? Including myself. So think about it. How much stronger would you feel if you could rely on yourself the same way you rely on someone who always shows up in your life? I think of this every day because I'm raising 2 kids, right? Like, I want to be there for them for everything that I can because that's my job, but I also want to teach them, right, that this matters. Showing up matters, right? I know people that are late all the time. Late? That's not in my vocabulary, I'll tell you that. I'm always early because I will never be late. It's not who I am or what I'm going to be. I refuse, right? So these are little things that add up over time. So they, my kids, right? They look to my wife and me to show up. So that builds confidence in them because they have parents that show up consistently. And then this consistently proves that they are loved, they are cherished, and they are important, that they matter, right? This is how self-trust is built for children, or part of it. But it's funny when we become adults, we just like throw it out, So it's not through motivation. It's not through getting up on the hype train. It's not through it's through quiet and consistent follow through. That's how it's done. So you don't need a 90-day program to rebuild yourself. Hate to break it to you. Unless it's mine, of course. You can do that on mine. I'm kidding, right? I mean, I'm kind of kidding, but not kidding. No, seriously though. This is the problem with all of these like quick fixes, right? I love me a 90-day program, a 30-day whatever challenge. Great, good stuff. if it's done correctly. And what I mean by correctly is guaranteeing up front, hey, this is a short win, this is a quick fix, but guess what? We're going to build on this afterwards. We're going to make it into something that is sustainable. You got to make it sustainable. Okay? Michael, I'm going to get to that in a second. You just need one honest day repeated. That's it. Groundhog Day, repeated. See, but most people don't want Groundhog Day. They want the same thing. Well, guess what? The most successful people in any vein of life, I don't care if it's spiritual, if it's financial, if it's a mix of both, if it's, network, they got a great, successful network, whatever it is, right? They do the boring, tedious stuff every single day. And you don't hear about it because it's part of who they are. They don't need to talk about it because it's getting done, baby. Because that's how they got where they got. So the challenge this week, right, is pick one small promise. This is actually from last week. It's from the weekly email we get every Friday if you're on my newsletter, okay? So you pick one small promise and then you keep every day for the next 7 days that one little tiny promise. And you want to make the promise very small, especially for your first one, because you want to make it sound almost ridiculously easy. You're like, oh, Zach, I can easily do that. That's the feeling you want, because then you can build on something like that. Because then once you get 7 days, you're like, oh, got 7 days, great. And then we can build on that, okay? But if you make it a little too hard, guess what? You're going to end up crashing and burning. Happens every time. Almost every time, I should say. 95% of the time, I've had like literally maybe 3 clients in over 15 years that don't crash and burn after doing this for a while if they go too full ahead, okay? That's how confidence is compounded, okay? Those little wins every single day, but showing up every day. So number 1, 2, 3, right? Keep small promises, not big ones. Shrink the timeline and stop negotiating with yourself, okay? All right, Michael said, this is not true. Sometimes you're given more than you can handle in life. Never say never. Correct. Correct. And speaking in absolutes is actually, again, going to how you should speak better and use your words better is extremely important, because speaking in absolutes is actually one of the things I had to learn early on in my marriage. Was I spoke in absolutes, like you always, you never, and it's you and then the absolute. So it's all their problem. And then they always do it, right? Well, good luck communicating with somebody using that language, right? So language matters a lot. Now, I wouldn't say I'm not sure exactly what you were talking about, Michael, being untrue, but you have a point that sometimes you're given more than you can handle. But the principles of what I'm saying are still true, because when you are given more than you can handle, how do you react to it? And most people are not reacting to it by doubling down on the small promises and getting them done. What happens is they usually try to overcome too much, and they're like, all right, I got to figure this out. And they figure it out. And then those are the types of people as well that end up overeating. They use food as a comfort. They go to Netflix and comfort, right? They find a reward somewhere else to get through it. Oh, regarding I'll never be late. Thanks for clarifying. Yeah, so again, it is such a strong value inside of me. You caught me on the language, right? Because, it was funny because one time I got in an argument with my wife in the car about being late with the kids in the back, and my daughter's like 3.5. And my daughter says, yeah, Mom, because Lloyds are never late. And it was just like, boom, hit me. I'm like, oh, shoot. I messed up, right? I overcorrected in the right direction. I overcorrected, right? Because, yeah, we will be late. And it's funny because in certain things, I have eased back on being, quote unquote, late or maybe not early to things. But it's part of respecting other people's time is how I talk to my kids about it, right? But yeah, I might hit traffic, and I expected some traffic, but I didn't expect, a traffic jam for 2 hours. Like, of course, I will be late sometimes, right? But it's the value inside of me that you can actually hear me talking about is so strong that I'm using the language never, because that's how important it is in my mind, right? Good catch, Michael. You're totally right on that. You're totally right. Thanks for catching me on that. So, any questions on that? great, no, good, awesome. Okay, so that's one great way to build confidence. Now we're gonna go get a quick workout in. You can ask me questions about that as we work out or anything else, whatever it is. This is on my weekly newsletter, goes out every Friday. It's free, it's in the description, join if you want to. I'm always talking about something that is going to help you push yourself a little more forward, hopefully educate you about something that's new, and then challenge your beliefs around health and fitness, nutrition, especially psychology. I think it's one of the more important things, is how we manage our mind and our brain, because they are two different things. And our body, the physical brain, the body is more in the physical. So you got to also talk about the mind, which is different. How we think about things, how we talk, how we interact with our thinking is huge, right? Because you can have two people with the same job, with the same family, everything the same, dang near almost identical, but they can get two totally different outcomes in 6 months if they're going after some big audacious goal of theirs because of the way that they think or the way that they talk to themselves. So that's always something that we're talking about in my programs and the emails, all that stuff. Okay, cool. So let's get a quick workout. Today we're gonna go over some staggered activities. If you're not, most people are not, I don't know, up to, most people don't stagger. Most people don't stagger, and they don't know why you would stagger. Kind of sounds crazy why you would even stagger your feet in the first place. So ask me anything on that, but it's one of the more important things that you should probably have in your program if you want your program to be long-lasting and sustainable over time. Because unfortunately, we all live under gravity, and gravity is pushing down on us 24/7, okay? And then we are pushing into the ground to push against gravity, okay? This is physics. You can challenge that, and I'd love to hear how you could possibly challenge that, but to me, that's base level first principles, okay? Physics is pushing down on us, physics is pushing, gravity is pushing down on us. Our feet are pushing into the ground because we are bipedal, we have 2 feet. We have to push into the ground to produce force to push up against gravity and then do what we want to do with our lives. So whether that's walking, jumping, running, whatever, okay? And if that's first, what's next, okay? What's next is we all have these skeletons. We all have skeletons. We all have hips because the hips don't lie, okay? And then we have organs in here, okay? Because of the way our organs are not symmetrically loaded inside of our bodies, guess what? We're gonna have a bias to move in one direction, okay? So all of us are being pushed to the, well, you're looking in the reverse camera. We're all I'm not gonna confuse anybody. We're being pushed to the right, okay? Some of us are being pushed to the right like this, and then like this, and then some of us are being pushed forward and then to the right. There's all sorts of biases. We're all different, okay? I'm not saying we're all the same. That's the last thing I'm saying, but there's similarities. So gravity pushing into the floor against gravity. We have organs that push us to the right over time. So how can you create a sustainable program to build muscle, right? To be strong, to move well over time into your 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, and 90s, yada, 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 right? How can you do that? Well, you have to be aware of the fact that your body is being turned and pushed more to the right as every single day goes by. And so this gets back to, if you do bilateral training only, you're going to limit your movement options, okay? So if you're bench pressing with a bar, you're back squatting all the time, nothing wrong with those activities, but you have to realize that you are pushing into the ground and you're limiting your ability to turn. And when your foot touches the ground and it pushes into the ground to produce force, guess what? You're creating a turn. Whether you realize it or not, you are. Again, first principles, physics, human movement, that's where we're at right now. But you have to understand that before you can jump to, I'm gonna do staggered exercises, because you need to know what staggered exercises are and why you would do them. So I'm talking about, if these are your feet, the bottoms of your feet, we're going to, instead of squat only like this, right? We're going to stagger our feet for different reasons, okay? And this allows you to regain a little bit of whatever you're slowly losing over time, or maintain it, okay? So for me, I did a lot of stupid things in my 20s, and so I'm very pushed forward like this. My chest and my rib cage, actually see on my shirt, my rib cage, look out, that's very wide, called infrasternal angle. Not gonna go into that now. But because of this, I move differently through space, okay? And it's not a good or bad thing, it's just how it is. So for me, right, I'm gonna stagger my feet depending on, there's a lot of, depends. Everything depends, okay? But for today, I'm gonna stagger my right foot forward a little bit and my left foot back. And what that's going to do is going to give me a little bit of a turn, and I'm gonna get into my left side more. And I'm gonna expand what is very compressed right now, which is what's pushing me forward, right? And people are saying, I got tight muscles. Well, those tight muscles are tight, maybe, sure, but it's really a compression that is a strategy that your body has chosen so you can move through space or do whatever you're telling it to do, right? Squat, push-ups, whatever, okay? And so based off this, for me today, I'm gonna stagger my feet a little bit. And that's gonna, again, expand areas that are really compressed. And by expanding areas that are compressed, guess what? I get more freedom of movement and I can turn better. And if we go back to first principles of human movement, when your foot touches the ground and you push into the ground to produce force, what is that? It is a turn. So if we can turn better, guess what? We can move better and we can be healthier, whatever that even means. You have some idea of what that means, for longer, versus people that are getting knees, shoulders, hips in their 40s, 50s, or 60s, and they're like, well, how did this happen? I didn't do anything. Well, yeah, you did. It's called gravity pushing down on you and you pushing against gravity to move, right? So knowing these things can create a more sustainable movement plan for you or workout program that can help you in the long run and not just in the short run to get beach ready or New Year ready or whatever it is. Like, again, those things are not necessarily silly, but you're missing the point and you're probably going to cause yourself less movement and hopefully not hurt yourself over time as well, which is very common. Thappa, good to see you, man. Glad to have you. Sorry, Derpy, I missed your comment, and Shiny, by the way. Hello, hello, hello. It has been a while, my man. How are you, Thappa? Okay, so let's get the workout done. It's another short one today, but again, if you are a professional, if you're a dad, right, you don't have a lot of time, and that's why I'm here to tell you. You don't need a lot of time to work out, but you do need to be intentional with how you're working out so you can maximize the time that you do have, okay? Thappa, I hope you're doing well, man. I saw your comment. Sounded like the exams got you off a little bit, right? Did you finish strong though? Oh, there we go, sorry. Lay it on me, man. Like I said, I was praying for you the other day. Hope you're doing well. You did? You got through? All right, good, man. Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. All right, this is the hair today. The hair's not bad. I'm sweating through my hat lately and I don't want to get a new hat. Okay, I like that hat. Okay, so talking about staggered, right? So I'm gonna get the barbell. We're gonna do some landmine presses. Landmine presses are a great way, especially for somebody like me that's more tall and narrow. I'm not talking about fat either. I'm talking about the architecture of the rib cage, really, and the hips, okay? Can be really helpful. So anyways, I personally need to get taller so I can get more volume of air and water up and higher into my rib cage, because that's where it doesn't want to be as much. That's why I have neck issues. Are you training legs? I'm gonna hit the legs a little bit, but today's gonna be more upper body focused, just because of the time constraint, which, you know, I don't like. I like doing full body, but today I want to go over some of the staggered activities, and there's plenty of staggered stuff we're gonna be doing with legs. But I don't know if I'm gonna have time because I'm gonna be going over the staggered, which is a little confusing to most people, which is fair because there's not many people in the health and fitness industry that know what the heck they're doing with their feet or why they're doing it. Okay, there we go. All right, so again, for me, right, the stagger is gonna be a little right and left. And again, soft knees, I'm not pushing through on my toes. I'm feeling my heels. Big toe, the base of your big toe into that heel, and I'm sitting into it a little bit, okay? And then and again, I'm not pushing forward more, right? Because the idea is I'm pushing back, stacking my ribs over my hips. Boom, baby. All right, so that's the warm up, okay? Starting with an exhale. What that exhale does is, those ribs were flaring a minute ago, and now I'm dropping them. So I'm getting ribs down over my hips. So it's a better place to start, okay? Gosh, this is humbling. I used to do 45 plus on this. How's the music today? So Thap, are you still there? Are you you still getting your workouts, getting a little movement in? That usually helps me with testing stuff or stuff like what you gotta study. Refreshes the brain, sitting there for hours. Go get a little movement, a little meal. All right, look at that, boom. Okay, 3 sets, now we're gonna go to the pulley. Let's go. Let's try that. Try that. Try that on for size. 40. Okay, so again, same principle with the feet, okay? Now again, this does change and differ depending on what the goal is, but for me today, this is what we're doing. I'm gonna sidestep because I wanna cross to the midline of my body, still owning that left side. Again, not doing this though. And then this side, because I'm in my left, I don't need to cross the center midline. gonna go more straight. And then notice on the way back, I'm not twisting back. Those shoulders are staying relatively straight. Where'd my water go? Water, where'd you go? Whew. Anybody got big Thanksgiving plans? Tell you one thing too, when you change into staggered, you get a different position with your feet. There's gonna be some muscle you didn't know existed because the orientation, right? So like for me, my right hip sits kind of like, if a normal one's more like here or normal, I'm like tilted off to the side. So when I bring my knee in front, I'm bringing that hip in and all of a sudden my glutes are like, whoa, what are we doing here, folks? But again, I'm not working the glute, right? It just happens to change orientation and I'm getting a lot more expansion on that side. I got some messed up hair, don't I? So it sensationally feels different to me. Which I always find interesting, sensations can really throw people off, especially when it comes to pain, because sensationally you feel tight or loose, but what is that tightness or looseness telling you? It's a whole nother story, and you could get checked out by 5 different physical therapists and get 5 different answers. Riddle me that. Set the ribs. And in a muscle building sense, you'll say, get closer to failure more often. In a movement sense, if I get closer to failure here, guess what happens? Yeah, I can burn the muscle out more, okay? Great for hypertrophy. But what's gonna happen? I'm going to shift more forward like this. Because that's the strategy my body is choosing to move more weight. And this is why I'm already pretty wide, wide shoulder. Well, yeah, it's because I flattened my body like a pancake for years, right? I should be more like that, but no, I'm flat on the back and I'm flat on the front. So what does that tell you? Been pushing here and I've been pushing here. And guess what? Pushing forward wins out. So I'm more like that. So again, it really matters what your exercise selection is relating to these things, okay? All right, so let's do some curls now. Those are my sets. Sticking with the staggered. See, get my feet there. Yeah. I can actually look and rotate towards it too. And that's going to get a little more cervical expansion, which would feel like a mobility or some increased amount of movement that you would be ideally looking for if you had some neck issues going on. Lost it. Okay. You can see it there on that last one, right? It's the curl and then it's the push forward like that instead of being back into that left hip like that, right? So I think we gave a couple good definitions here of first principles thinking, physics, how you interact with the ground because of gravity, how you're pushing against it, how our organs are shifting us all a little to the right, and how that little bit to the right makes a huge difference in the way that you move over time, especially as decades start stacking on top of decades. So it's something to be aware of, and then you can make better training decisions based off of that. It's really fun to just train insane and get after it, and that's what I prefer to do. But if you do that for too long, you might run into some pain or some issues, and then you're looking for the solution. And unfortunately, so many people are not finding the right solutions to their problems because the solutions are fixes or muscle-related things, when actually in reality, we have limbs, right? And then we have a rib cage and a hip that are actually very similar. And so getting them stacked on top of each other gives us this cylindrical-like structure, okay, for water and air to move more freely. And then like a piston, right, then we can explode and push into the ground more and move better. And having that full range of motion wherever you're losing it can be huge, right? I meant to do a self-test before we started, but for instance, a great one would have been a self-test flexion for shoulder flexion. And so you would have noticed that, let's say I could barely touch the wall behind me while keeping my elbow in, it wanted to deviate. So we can slowly touch the wall. That's flexion right there. And then how far can I slide up the wall with keeping that elbow straight forward and not coming out or dumping or whatever it is, or losing the wall behind me. And you would see, I'll have to do that on the next one, the difference is amazing. And what happens is you're like, that's magic, or he's, got a video angle or whatever it is. No, it's like I said, if we're more cylindrically based with our ribs and our hips, guess what? That fluid, the air, water, stuff moving around, it moves better and more freely when you have more expansion there, okay? And so that's all we're doing, is we're training to expand our bodies a little better and compress, but be able to expand again and not just be compressed more over time and have less and less expansion. Because it's like, if you start out as a toddler, right? Start rolling on the ground and walking, you have all this space, and then you're 40 years old and you only have this much space, but you're like, I want to be on the earth at least for another 40 or 60 years. You might be having some issues with that limited amount of space when you started with this much space. So if you have questions on that, I know this is probably very new to you. Please follow up with questions. I love questions. Have challenges, challenge me. I love it. Please. It'd be great. You make me better by doing it as well. And then we make the content, the educational content, better for you as well. And then you can make better decisions on your end for your training to make it more sustainable over time, which is not talked about enough, is it? That's why I'm here with this ugly mug of mine talking about it over and over again. So good talk today on how we build confidence. If you missed that, go back to the start of the video. Let's finish on this note, okay? Every rep today was a small little promise, okay? It's a small little promise that you kept. And that's where the confidence starts. Not in the mirror, but in the follow through. And if you're going to be somebody that follows through on their word, don't chase the hype. Don't wait for the motivation. Pick one small thing you'll do and then just prove it to yourself. Because the quiet wins is what compounds. So let's keep going. Lift life. You're made in the image of God and He loves you. Don't forget it. Dappa, thanks for dropping in. Michael, good questions today. Good comments. Shiny, Derpy, appreciate you guys being here. It's always my pleasure to serve you as best as I can. Drop any comments you got below. Make sure you get on the email list for every Friday. And then don't have funky looking hair like that either, okay? Have a beautiful, fantastic day. Beautiful, fantastic day. And don't forget